Hello and welcome to Biz Daily. I'm Jon Jordan. So the big news in the mobile game space today is some interesting numbers from a US research company looking at the amount of money that the games industry is spending on US TV ads. So let's get the figures right. So I've got my bit of my cheat sheet. So the company is iSpotTV, the research company that they've put out figures for. They've been kind of tracking, estimating the numbers for 2015. So overall, its estimated increase in spending from 2014 to 2015 was a rise of 47%. So pretty substantial. And in terms of the amount of money as well, that's pretty substantial. It's about just under $630 million was spent on US TV kind of cable advertising. So it's not looking at online or spend or anything like that. That's looking at US TV spending. So it's I guess a small part of what companies are spending on advertising for their games, but something that's growing kind of rapidly. And it's particularly interesting because I guess historically, for the last decade, we've seen big console games or big PC games spending money on TV advertising. It's only really been in the last, maybe really 2014 really is when we started to see some spending, and 2015 has seen a real explosion in companies spending, mobile games companies spending money on TV advertising. We can see that from kind of some of the figures really. So in 2014, actually the biggest company spending money on TV advertising in the US was King. So King was doing an IPO at the time, so it kind of really wanted to get its figures up, and it spent about $45 million on TV advertising. And King again is a big spender this year. So King is the fifth biggest spender in 2015. It spent about the same actually. It didn't really change very much. Actually spent a tiny bit less. And then in 2014, Activision, PlayStation, they were the second and third biggest. And then a company we all know, Supercell. So Supercell in 2014 spent about $35 million on advertising. Now in 2015, Supercell basically spent about twice as much money on US TV advertising as before it, but it was only the number 2 biggest spending games company. So the biggest spending games company of 2015 in the US, no surprise at all I guess to most people in the industry, Machine Zone. So Machine Zone is an absolute juggernaut. In 2015 its biggest game as came out in 2014, Game of War. Obviously kind of famously they have had Kate Upton as the kind of the figurehead, and lots of ads of her being goddess in the game, or basically kind of odd adverts really, but really stood out, and it backed those with a lot of money. So it spent $93 million on US TV advertising, which compares to about $60 million for Supercell. So it spent significantly more than the second place. And it is interesting that if you look down the top 5 big spenders on US TV advertising for games in 2015, 3 of them, so Machine Zone, Supercell and King, are all mobile only developers. So Activision and Nintendo were in there, PlayStation were number 6, Warner's was 7, Microsoft was 8, EA 9, Bethesda 10. So you can really see at the top end, the people who are spending a lot of money are mobile game studios. And what's interesting about that is there's been this discussion for a long time that what we would call user acquisition, so basically marketing to get users into your game, and a lot of people are saying, oh, it's too expensive, it's not working anymore. Now there's definitely arguments around kind of how well it works now, how well targeted it is. Prices have been going up constantly. In a sense, that's kind of that's good for the industry, because that's people are understanding how much money you can get off players, how much money players are prepared to spend, so the cost of getting them gets more. And obviously within the system as well, if you have a mobile game that has adverts in it, if the cost of a user is going up, you're getting more money for your adverts in some broad term. What's really interesting is in 2015 we saw a big movement kind of outside what we might call traditional user acquisition. So we've seen a lot of advertising in other people's games, advertising in Facebook, online advertising. Facebook was really big for 2014. 2015 we've seen big spending, big kind of bulk spending on TV stuff, which is in a sense harder to track. It's harder to track what a TV advert is doing in terms of increasing your downloads. You can do it, but it's harder. You can't track it in the same way. But also these kind of companies who are doing this big TV ad spending, like Machine Zone and Supercell. Also looking at kind of other areas. So Machine Zone did do some stuff in Instagram. So it released a game called Mobile Strike at the end of last year, 2015. It was spending a lot of money. Probably Instagram wasn't the best place to be spending money, probably not the best audience, but it was spending money there. And also we're seeing kind of other companies who just can't spend $100 million on TV advertising, looking to other kind of I guess more creative user acquisition, and they are looking at things like the YouTubers and Twitch and not kind of so kind of hardcore. What I've been kind of calling now, particularly with Machine Zone, you can call it kind of brute force UA. They've got so much money now, and they're so well in tune to how much it costs to get a user and how much money they can generate from a user. I mean, they're just really kind of like bring out the big artillery to kind of create these big brands and these, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, probably, you know, Game of War definitely a $1 billion franchise in terms of the money it's generated, and they understand that market really well. So you can't really compete with those. Not, you could argue not even Supercell can compete with Machine Zone when it comes to that niche strategy. So everyone else is having to come up with other ideas, and I think that's good for the industry. You can't just assume that there's a kind of one solution fits all for your game. It depends on the game, your audience. You need to understand these things with much more granularity than we did in the past. So I guess that's the news today. Is a few companies are spending a lot of money on TV advertising. Not for everyone, but there are always ways to get users into your game. So just maybe have to think a bit smarter than before. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and come back tomorrow and see what the news is then. We'll see you then.